Well, it just happened 2 nights ago, and yes, I've already received at least one phone call as a quote-unquote follow-up scenario, perceived follow-up scenario, if you will. There was even a team that called in the thick of the final throes of the deal that presented themselves as another available team to jump in. But anytime the next domino falls, now there's new circumstances throughout the league. But in particular with our team, I could say that we have some new circumstances, and we can look to be a little bit more aggressive in other areas, because two nights ago when I was having these discussions, we didn't have Rudy Gay under contract. So, our picture has changed somewhat, but we really do want to see, if possible, how this is all going to come together with the current personnel right now.
In terms of, as you were mentioning, sometimes numbers and salary, people put too much emphasis on it. I just want you to elaborate a little bit more on that, and maybe particularly this situation, because we all look at so many millions of dollars and say that's going to be his worth. How do you look at it differently?
Once again, I feel like analytics are clearly a very important part of our business right now, and not every contract that is signed justifies itself based on purely an analytic viewpoint. You've got to take into into account the human factors, the chemistry issues, the success of your ball club, the current contract that someone was operating with, and where they came from. So it's one of those scenarios where you have to take the player based on his availability, not necessarily based solely on the contract and the amount of production per that contract on a dollar-for-dollar basis. So, again, we look at the big picture, and there's a balanced budget. There's a budget that we work within from a standpoint of the CBA. Salary cap obviously is a factor. The tax is a factor. There's a more punitive tax on the way. But I will say to you that moving forward with a considerable commitment like this, we're in good position for both a short-term run here, but also to have flexibility out in the future. In no case were we going to have flexibility this upcoming summer in free agency, so we'll still be stuck with those same restrictions based on our current salary. But there's a lot of water that can cross under the bridge before we'll know exactly what flexibility we'll have and how we'll look to get better this summer in terms of adding some of those additional pieces that we would like to. But when the player's there and available, you move on it, and that's what we did.
I know you've already answered about Kyle, but the kind of pressure he's maybe under now. What expectation?
He's a basketball player, and he's willing to take whatever kind of pressure there is. That's what happened when he came here in the type of transaction that was, that brought him here. And again, we feel very comfortable with his talent level. And if you want to talk just solely on analytics, he's got one of the best contracts in the league as far as bang for your buck in terms of the output versus the contract amount. So there's some good things there. So again, just one last point about the process of going for a player like this and making a considerable commitment. I've been charged with making the basketball team better, and I've also heard very specifically, that there's a commitment to spend whatever's necessary to bring the right team together, and a competitive team, and that's where we're headed right now. We've gotten better with this transaction, and the board fully supported the commitment of spending the dollars required to bring Rudy here. So, and we look at this as a step in the process.
Sorry, Brian. When you say you kind of spend what you want in terms of.
No, they're committed to spending. They're committed to spending what's necessary to put a committed team and a competitive team on the floor.
Does that mean going above and beyond it?
If it means that I go to them with a transaction that would be justifiable you know, regardless of the circumstances, they would have to hear it all out. But yes, you know, the board's fully behind making this a competitive basketball team on the ability, based on that ability to spend the dollars.
Was it a hard sell?
Or the requirement to spend the dollars.